How you doing, folks? This one I'm gonna do a video in today is on how to read your bear shaft. I get some questions on that. People want to pick my brain about how to read a bear shaft, and it's really very simple. And I don't mind helping anybody, at any given point. So this is just not a video I'm trying to do to get people not to call me or ask me questions, message me, or nothing like that. So it's nothing like that. So I'm going to start out with reading weak and stiff spine. Now when you get, this is from my perspective, so from a right-handed shooter, if you're weak, it's going to knock left, and that arrow has a tendency to veer right. And that gives you an indication that it's a weak spined arrow. I mean, if you're looking for a weak spine to cut down to a certain tip weight and to a certain length, I try to find, for me, what flies the best out of the bow. I don't care if it's a 350 spine, 340 spine, down to a 600 spine. I want to get as close to my spine as possible. I can make a heavier spine work, I can make a lighter spine work almost, but if it's too light, then you're just not going to be able to make it work. But with the weak spine reading, it's going to want to tend to to veer right, and it's going to knock left, unless it's noticeable in your target and you watch it fly, and you see it knocking left and trying to correct itself. Sometimes it'll go back and it'll come back when it hits the target. You'll see it knock left reading. Excuse me. And that'll be an indication of weak spine. Now for a stiff spine, it's going to want to knock right and veer to the left. And it may do all kind of funny stuff, but eventually it's going to veer and it's going to go to where the way the knock is leaning, so your tip's going to go the opposite way, so which will be to the left. So if you need something like a visual, what I did was take a piece of 550 cord, little bitty piece of rope, and what I try to do is try to get this shaft and my flex shaft closest to that line as I can, without cutting to start with. If I have to cut, I will. It's not a favorable thing to do because I have miscut about a dozen arrows a while back, and it cost me a little bit of money. So I kind of do the bear shafting first and get it as close as I can. So if I need to do some fine tuning, I'll go to my brace height. For a weaker spine, you want to come down in brace height. For a stiffer spine, you want to go up in brace height. So I'll try to do all that before, if I can't get it in then I'll go to cut. And I'll cut very little at a time. I'm going to probably say a 1/4 inch, and it just depends on how bad the reading is. So I'll play around with tip weight and all that, but if I'm looking for a certain tip weight, I'm just going to slap that tip weight on at the start and roll with it. And if my spine reads weak with that tip weight, then there ain't a whole lot you can do but cut and get it down to where it's basically flying in straight and hitting centered where you want it. But for a right-handed shooter, left is weak, right is stiff. So for a left-handed shooter, that would flip-flop over. It would be the reverse. So right would be weak for a left-handed, left knock would be stiff for a left-handed shooter. So a bear shaft is a really good tool to have if you know how to extract the information from it, because everything it tells you, because most questions that I have when it comes to arrow or arrow spine, when I've asked, and it's always that question, what's your arrow telling you? Well, I had no idea, or I had an idea, I just didn't want to accept the fact whether it was weak or stiff or what. I was trying to use that spine instead of being I was being hard-headed instead of taking what the shaft was telling me. So so if you take the shaft for what it tells you, it'll tell you whether you're weak or stiff. It can tell you whether your knock height is high or low. The way that I do, I always start high when I start tuning my knock height. I'll start way above where I know it's going to shoot bad, and I'll use this in relation to my flex shafts. So I'll say if I went, use for an example, if I was 3/4 high, which I shoot split finger now, 3/4 high is going to be a little bit, a little high, because that's about where I normally shoot 3 under at. It's about 3/4, 11/16. And my arrows may hit center up, but my bear shaft will be down low, so it's telling me I'm knock high. So if my bear shaft is hitting higher than my flex shaft, I'm knock low. So I try to find that happy medium. Sometimes I can get them dead on, or whatnot, but most of the time my bear shaft's going to be just a tiny bit lower than my flex shaft. So I hope this is helpful on how to read. I mean, just the other part about the knock height's a little extra, but that's the way I use the bear shaft, is give me stiff if I'm looking for the right spine for a certain bow, which I got a bow here is at 45 pounds. It's like in a 400 spined arrow. I've been shooting a little bit shorter 500s, with a 145, and it still just ain't acting right. So I went back to bear shafting, and I got a consistent reading on a weak spine. So what I look when you do bear shaft, what I look for is consistency in the arrows. Now, if your arrows, you got one flying right, one flying left, that's going to make you all confused, and that's usually a form issue. But if your form is fairly good and your release is fairly good, you should be able to get consistent readings. And I always try to use it with a flex shaft, so I use the flex shaft as a reference, or you can use a string as a reference. So I hope this helps, and I know it's helped me. Once I learned it, I don't have to make as many phone calls. There's always something that pops up that I don't understand. I will call somebody that knows way more than I do, and it's an ever learning process. So no questions are dumb questions, what I've been told, but it's, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. Most archers will be willing to help you in solving your problem, but you got to take the information that you get and put it to use, and to see if it works or not. So I hope this helps, and I hope y'all have a great day, and God bless.